There's a woman in her 70s who lives alone now in a house that used to be full. Her husband is gone 3 years. Her children are grown and scattered across the country. And on most afternoons, the house is very quiet. Her daughter has decided that quiet is a problem to be solved. This is the story of the afternoon she learned it wasn't. Hello, I'm Eleanor. The story I'm about to share with you isn't a single person's biography, but rather a tapestry woven from the lives of many older adults of our time. It's a reflection of a generation honoring the truth, the resilience, and the unique ways they are living right now. Think of me as your guide through these shared experiences, here to bring their voices, their memories, and their enduring spirits to light. Let's step into their world together. There's a woman in her 70s who lives alone now, in a house that used to be full. Her husband is gone 3 years. Her children are grown and scattered across the country. And on most afternoons, the house is very quiet. Her daughter has decided that quiet is a problem to be solved. This is the story of the afternoon she learned it wasn't. Let's call the mother Margaret. Let's call the daughter Carol. Carol lives 4 states away. She calls her mother on Sundays, and lately every call has worried her more, because every Sunday the answer to "What did you do this week?" is more or less the same. Margaret made her coffee. She read. She tended the small things in the yard. She watched the birds come to the feeder. To Carol, this sounds like a warning, a mother fading, a house going silent the way houses do before something is wrong. She remembers her mother as a woman who hosted holidays for 20, who ran the church kitchen, who never sat still, and now coffee and birds and quiet. So Carol decides to act. She books a flight. She is going to come and, in her own loving way, rescue her mother from the smallness of her days. Carol arrives on a Friday with a plan and a list. She is going to fill the weekend. There is a community center with programs. There is a class. There is a luncheon. There is a woman from the old neighborhood Margaret simply must reconnect with. Carol has printed the schedule, and Margaret, who loves her daughter, says yes to all of it, the way mothers do. She puts on the brighter blouse. She lets herself be driven across town to the luncheon, where the room is loud and the lights are bright, and the conversation moves fast. She smiles. She nods. She is, by every outward sign, participating. But Carol, watching her mother across that long table, notices something she did not expect. Her mother is performing, politely, gracefully, exhaustingly performing. And by the time they get home, Margaret is quieter than she's been all day. Not sad, just spent. That night, Carol can't sleep. She sits at the kitchen table, going over her list, and she feels something close to despair. Nothing worked. Her mother had been out among people all day, and she'd come home smaller, not bigger. To Carol, this confirms the worst. If even a full day can't draw her mother out, then the decline is further along than she feared. She is doing what so many loving children do. She is reading her mother's life through the only lens she has, her own. A full life to Carol means a full calendar, movement, plans, noise, and measured against that, her mother's quiet days can only mean loss. What Carol cannot yet see is that she is grieving something that hasn't happened. She is mourning a mother who is, in fact, sitting one room away, content and misread. The turning doesn't come at the luncheon or the class or any of the events on Carol's list. It comes the next morning, Saturday, when nothing is planned at all. Carol wakes late and finds her mother already up, sitting by the window with her coffee, watching the feeder. And instead of jumping up to start the day, Margaret simply pours a second cup, sets it across from her, and says nothing. She just makes a little room beside her, so Carol sits. She doesn't reach for her phone. She doesn't suggest a plan. She just sits, the way her mother is sitting. And for a while, the only sound is the small one of birds at the feeder and 2 cups going slowly empty. And somewhere in that quiet, 20 minutes, maybe 30, something in Carol begins to loosen. Her mother starts to talk, not in answer to a question, but the way a person talks when there's finally room for it. She points to one of the birds and names it. She mentions which neighbor walks by at this hour, what the man 2 doors down is growing this year. She knows the small weather of her own street. She has been paying attention to 100 quiet things Carol never thought to ask about. And Carol understands all at once that she has had it backwards. Her mother's days are not empty. They are full, just full of things that don't fit on a printed schedule. The quiet she'd been trying to rescue her mother from was not a symptom. It was a choice, a life her mother had built deliberately in the space her grief had left behind. Margaret hadn't shrunk. She had narrowed the way a river narrows and runs deeper for it. Later, Carol finally says the thing underneath all of it. She says she worries, that she pictures her mother alone in this quiet house, and it frightens her. And Margaret, gently, because it's her daughter, explains the difference she spent 3 years learning. Lonely, she says, is when the quiet is missing someone. Peaceful is when the quiet is keeping them close. For a long while, after her husband died, the house was the first kind of quiet, unbearable. But somewhere along the way, without quite noticing, it became the second kind. The mornings by the window weren't where she was disappearing. They were where she was staying whole. Carol doesn't fully understand it. She's not 70. She hasn't lost what her mother lost. But for the first time, she believes her. There's a particular distance that can open up between a generation that's slowing down and a generation that's still in the rush of things. The younger one looks at the older one's quiet days and feels afraid, because to a person still running, stillness can only look like falling behind. But many older adults today aren't falling behind at all. They've simply arrived somewhere. After a life of being needed by everyone all at once, they've learned to be good company to themselves. The quiet that worries their children is often the very thing holding them together. The mercy in this story isn't that the mother changed. She didn't need to. It's that the daughter learned to see. And that's a thing worth wishing for, that the people who love us might one day understand the difference between a small life and a settled one. Margaret was never the only one sitting by a window, perfectly all right, waiting to be understood instead of fixed. That was today's story. Stories like this one are composed for the channel, drawn from the textures of how older adults are living right now. If this story made you think of someone in your own life, a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, or maybe yourself, we hope you'll reach out to them this week. Or if you're someone who could use a regular conversation in your own life, that matters too. At Grand Companion, our mission is to bring people together through the power of conversation. We pair older adults with real, caring companions for weekly chats, creating genuine friendships and meaningful human connections. If you enjoyed this story and want to help us celebrate and support older generations, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow. Thank you so much for listening.